Allow me also to introduce to you the Manifesto implementation team that I work with. I have Mr. Fred Kamjira here, who is the Deputy Director. I have other members of the technical team, Gloria Mwenge, the Principal Administrator. I have Gilbert Onono, who is the Principal Economist. I have Marvin Senkungu, who is our Economist, and David, who is our Economist. And that is how we have come. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you for hosting us, and I would not like to take you deep into this activity because my Honorable Minister came to Cabinet to present the paper that operationalized this activity, and we want to thank you for your support during that time. Allow me now to say to all our viewers, wherever you are, that education plays a very key role in our agenda for socio-economic transformation. It reinforces the other factors of human capital development as were outlined in our thematic area of delivering water, health, and education. Education, you'll bear me witness, for some of you have tested it, that it is an enabler, it's foundational in shaping us live in a modern way. So, NRM continues to prioritize education in order to meet its strategic agenda of socio-economic transformation. So today, we are privileged to listen to the story of our journey since 2021 to date, on the different achievements that we have registered, and also shortfalls along the journey, as we will be listening to the challenges in this sector presented by none other than our Honorable Minister, our First Lady, Mama Jenet Museveni. Honorable Minister, like we have said, we have the honor to invite you to address us in the state you want. I therefore take this singular honor and pleasure to welcome you to address the country by briefing us on how far we have gone in the performance in this sector that you supervise. I welcome you, Honorable Minister. Please join me. We welcome the Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Shasha. And I welcome all of you, colleagues from the education sector itself, and those who are coming from outside our sector. So today, we wanted to present to you the progress report of the NRM Manifesto 21-26, but we have gone to 21-24 so far, and that's the progress we want to give you. So the introduction here is the commitments we made, priority areas and commitments. The first one is early childhood development. The second is primary education. The third is secondary education. The fourth is TVET, education or skills development. The fifth is higher education. The sixth is physical education and sports. The seventh is special needs education. This is the progress of implementation of the Manifesto commitments in this sector. Now, introduction. This is the 4th year running of the NRM Manifesto 2021-26, as I said, for the Education and Sports sub-program. It has 30 commitments across 7 priority areas of early childhood development, as I've just already said, of primary education, secondary education, technical, vocational education and training, higher education, physical education and sports, and special needs. These are the commitments focused on improving quality of education at all these levels. Now B, priority areas. The 30 commitments across the 7 priority areas are highlighted in the table below. I'm sure you're all looking at what I'm reading. Early childhood development. The commitment is to improve early childhood development through institutionalizing training for ECD caregivers at public PTCs and enforcing regulatory and quality assurance system of early childhood development standards. Number 2, primary education. Number 1, the commitment is to ensure that children complete at least 11 years of school. That is from primary 1 to S4, and acquire skills required for the job market. Number 2 is to conduct village assembly in all the 68,000 villages of Uganda to pass a resolution on school charges. I'm sure everybody listening to the sound of my voice understand what we're talking about when we talk about the school charges. The school charges are charges that are additional in schools that are not paid for by government. And these charges have been compelling some children to drop out of school. So, government made a commitment to conduct village assembly in all the 68,000 villages of Uganda to pass a resolution on these school charges. Number 3, the commitment is to recruit additional teachers to negate the need for PTA contribution. Number 4, to continue improving the quality of education by strengthening supervision. Number 5, to introduce the school feeding program. Apart from improving nutrition and health of our children, this program also has the potential to spur a demand and create a market for agricultural produce in the country. Number 6, provision of instructional materials by continuing to increase the budget allocation to textbooks and scholastic materials to reach a pupil to textbook ratio of at least 5:1. Now, secondary education. Number 1 commitment is construction of 258 new secondary schools in sub-counties without a public secondary school. Number 2 is provision of instructional materials to improve the students' scholastic material ratio by providing textbooks to both public and private secondary schools, aiming at reaching a student to book ratio of 1 to 3 for the lower secondary curriculum. Number 3, the commitment is to progressively rehabilitate the traditionally historical public secondary schools. I'm sure the whole country know what we're saying when we talk about traditionally historical public secondary schools. Those are the old secondary schools that are mainly boarding schools. Number 4, commitment is to operationalize new government-owned and grant-aided schools by recruiting secondary school teachers and providing science equipment, science kits, reagents, and ICT equipment. Number 5, to increase community participation in the affairs of schools in their respective areas and report problems like teacher absenteeism and cases of sending away children. Number 6, to roll out the integrated inspection ICT biometric system in all public schools, which will enable access to real-time data for quick decision-making. The system will be rolled out in all public primary schools and secondary schools. Number 7, progressively enhancing salaries and improving other living conditions, particularly staff accommodation for teachers as our economy improves. Number 8, to complete the ongoing construction projects of schools that are being built across the country. Number 9, to promote e-learning and computer literacy. Now, on TVET education, number 1, the commitment is to deal with underutilization of public TVET institutions through relaxing entry requirements and language of instruction so that willing learners, regardless of previous qualifications, are eligible for admission. Number 2, to establish Noya Agro-Processing Technical Institute and upgrade the 6 TVET institutions to centers of excellence. Number 3 is to complete the construction of facilities in 22 TVET institutions. On higher education, commitment number 1 is to provide more scholarships and support students enrolling for STEM courses and other courses that are marketable in the current local job market. Number 2, set up a constituent college of Gulu University in Karamoja. Still on higher education, number 3, the commitment is to revamp 2 new regional universities. These are Busoga University and Mountains of the Moon University, which the government already took over. Number 4, continue with the student loan scheme for those not directly sponsored by the government, but these are to be aligned with the scarce skills in the country. Number 5, the commitment is to prioritize research and innovation funding to universities. Physical education and sports. Number one commitment in physical education and sports is to support construction of sports facilities like the Higher Altitude Athletics Training Center in Teriet, Kapchorwa, that is under construction. Number two, to support public-private partnership for funding sports and recreation. Number three, to maintain the existing physical education and sports facilities and construct appropriate standard recreation and sports infrastructure at national, at regional, local government, and school level in line with the country's niche sports like football, netball, athletics, and boxing. Number four, the commitment is to design and implement a program aimed at promoting and protecting creative arts and culture, industries such as music, dance, and drama for income generation. Number five, to establish regional sports-focused schools for sports, academies to support early talent identification and development and the training of requisite human resources for the sports subsector. Now, special needs education. Number one commitment on special needs education is to progressively revamp 2 regional institutions for persons with disabilities, namely Mbale School SS for the deaf and Wakiso Senior Secondary School for the deaf. Now, those are the commitments. So now we go to the progress of implementation of these commitments. On the commitment number 1, to improve early childhood development through institutionalizing training for ECD caregivers at public PTCs and enforcing regulatory and quality assurance system of ECD standards. What has been done is that the ministry mainstreamed the training of ECD caregivers as one of the packages for training primary school teachers. Number 2, the table below shows the number slots for government sponsorship for diploma training for early childhood development caregivers availed in the 23 core PTCs vis-a-vis the numbers enrolled. You can see on that table below. Number 1, in the year 2023 academic year, there were 1,980 scholarships and 683 caregivers enrolled. In the year 2024, scholarships were 2,300 and 605 caregivers enrolled. Next year, 2025, there are 2,300 scholarships. So we will see how many will enroll. Enrollment for early childhood development diploma training is hindered by caregivers trained in unaccredited private institutions, making them ineligible for admission to primary teachers' colleges. The career progression pathway for ECD caregivers allows for advancement from a certificate to a diploma to a degree and ultimately a PhD, ensuring that those who begin at the certificate level can continue to higher qualifications. On commitment one, still improving the early childhood development through institutionalizing training for ECD caregivers. We go to basic requirements and minimum standards for the quality assurance system in pre-primary teacher training institutions have been enforced since 2023. And bullet number 2, the early childhood care and education policy was approved by Cabinet on 14th May 2024, reflecting the Ministry's focus on improving early childhood services. And number 3, the draft basic requirements and minimum standards for early childhood care education centers is expected to be finalized by end of December 2024. Still on that commitment number 1, the implementation, this is priority area number 2 on primary education. The commitment number 1 is to ensure that children complete at least 11 years of school from P1 to S4 and acquire skills required for the job market. What has been done there is to implement the implementation of UPE, USE, and UPOLET programs has continued, targeting especially the disadvantaged learners. Knowing that there are still, bullet number 2, knowing that there are still extra charges that inhibit learners from attending school, Cabinet approved the decision to implement free and compulsory UPE and USE. Bullet number 3, in financial year 2021-2022, a national campaign to address teenage defilement, teenage pregnancy, early marriages, and promote positive parenting and the sensitization activities are carried out every year. Bullet number 4, the Ministry has developed a draft national school feeding policy. We have not yet achieved this yet, but a school feeding policy has been drafted so far. And the last bullet says that it has continued to promote the Go Back to School campaign since 2021. Priority area number 2, still on primary education, to ensure that children complete at least 11 years. This just shows the campaign that has been going on to address teenage defilement, teenage pregnancy, and early marriages. This happened at Kololo Independence Grounds. Page 13, still on primary education, to ensure that children complete at least 11 years. What has been done? We have had to ensure the quality and relevance of secondary education. Government is implementing the lower secondary competence-based curriculum, which equips students with relevant practical skills for the world of work, innovators and problem solvers, and with a social transformative mindset. The learners under the new curriculum are already demonstrating acquisition of relevant practical skills and knowledge application in real-life problem solving through their project work, where they are making functional products that are marketed for income generation. This is socially and economically transformative as the learners are mastering production processes, value addition, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. All this is to ensure that in these 11 years, we are also promoting skills development and entrepreneurship. Commitment number 2. The Ministry of Local Government should get to every village assembly in all the 68,000 villages of Uganda to pass a resolution. This issue of school charges in UPE and USE schools. Now, on this commitment, this was to address the reintroduction of school charges in government, which are government schools and government-aided schools, and to provide stationery, meals, and uniform for the learners. The Ministry of Local Government is yet to facilitate this undertaking. However, the Ministry of Education and Sports obtained some support from the Norwegian Embassy in Kampala and undertook a scientific study to look into the issues of extra charges and fees in public schools. The findings of this study informed the cabinet paper that was tabled by the ministry, upon which decisions were made regarding what expenses the government shall pay for in its universal education programs and the obligations that remain the parents' guardians' responsibility. This was an effort to ensure that government takes all the responsibility so that children can stop dropping out of school because of these charges. So that was done through a study that was taken throughout the whole country, and that indeed informed the paper that went to cabinet and helped the government to make a decision on these charges. I must explain that these charges are not yet paid for completely by government. So we still have a problem with some children dropping out of school because of those charges. But government has made a commitment that as budget improves, those charges will be covered by government so that parents and guardians don't have to pay those extra charges, so that we can stop children dropping out of school. And that will be done. Commitment number 3 was to recruit additional teachers to negate the need for PTA contribution. The ministry provided the funding to local governments across the country to support the recruitment of primary teachers in the least staffed local governments, to reduce the staffing gap as highlighted in the table below. You can see in the different financial years the allocation of the budget and the planned recruitment of more teachers. In 2021-2022, 24.09 billion was the allocation for that purpose, and planned recruitment was 4,922 teachers. In 22-23, 13.0 billion was the allocation for that purpose, 2,654 teachers were recruited. 23-24, the allocation has been 10.98 billion, and the planned recruitment is 1,611 teachers, and that's the total so far. 9,187 teachers have been recruited. I'm sorry, the screen is off, but I think you have copies of my my print. Now, commitment number 4, to continue improving the quality of education.
Excuse me, Mama.
Yes, please.
The screen here is okay.
Oh,
This one, so they are going to fix yours.
It's okay. I am not using mine anyway. I am reading from a hard copy, so it's okay. So commitment number 4 was to continue improving the quality of education by strengthening supervision. And what has been done is, since the beginning of the current manifesto period, government has injected funds amounting to Uganda shillings 37.51 billion towards inspection and monitoring of schools and post-primary institutions. Number 2, in financial year 21-22, the ministry was able to meet the internationally recommended inspector to school ratio of 40:1, following the recruitment of 448 additional inspectors in the local governments. Number 3, currently, the Ministry of Education and Sports participates in the joint monitoring and supervision of education activities at local government and school level that brings together several MDAs. As the ministry has developed standard national quality indicators to assess the quality of education provided. And bullet 5, funding has been provided to inspect every primary school at least once a term and at least 4,500 secondary schools per term. Number 2, the commitment number 5, that was to introduce the school feeding program. On the school feeding program, the ministry finalized the drafting of the national school feeding policy, as I've said already. It has joined the Global School Meals Coalition. The ministry has established the National School Feeding Working Group, including government, international agencies, NGOs, and private sector. The ministry approved plans to budget and plan for school feeding into the financial year 25-26 national budget. And 5, the ministry commissioned the National Plan of Digitalization School Feeding Information. Number 6, the ministry finalized and issued school feeding guidelines to all schools. This is a program that is ongoing, and we hope and pray that perhaps by 2026 the government may have found a way to actually provide school feeding at least for primary schools to start with. Now, priority area number 2 is still primary education, and commitment number 6, provision of instructional materials by continuing to increase the budget allocation to textbooks and scholastic materials to reach a pupil to textbook of 5:1. Now, over the 3 years, financial year 2021-2022 to financial year 2023 to 2024, government has availed Uganda shillings 22.8 billion for procurement of textbooks and instructional materials. With this resource, the ministry procured and distributed 2,446,791 copies of science and SST textbooks and 39,000 corresponding teachers' guides for each of the 2 subjects at a ratio of 5:1. For financial year 24-25, Uganda shillings 5.35 billion has been allocated towards procurement of 1,380,591 copies for P5 and P7, P5 to P7 English readers, local language, English dictionaries, and Islamic religious education readers. On number 3, on secondary education, commitment number 1, which is construction of 258 new secondary schools in sub-counties without a public secondary school. The ministry has built, under the U-Gift program, 258 new secondary schools are being constructed. 114 seed secondary schools have been completed. Construction is still ongoing for 144 secondary schools, and these are expected to be completed by June 2025. And you can see Annex 1 to confirm what schools are these we are talking about. Bullet number 2 says that the ministry is expecting to commence the construction of 116 new secondary schools under the Uganda Secondary Expansion Project, commonly known as USIP. See Annex 2 for the details of that one. Continuing with the secondary education, commitment number 1. The scope of a seed secondary school: 3 two-classroom blocks are provided. An administration block is provided. 2-unit science laboratories, an ICT library block, multipurpose hall, 2-unit teachers' houses, 2-unit teachers' kitchens, 4 2-stance-lined VIP latrine blocks for staff houses and administration, 2 5-stance-lined VIP latrine blocks for students, a playground, water harvesting tank, and external works. This is the scope of construction that is done for any one seed secondary school. Wherever these schools have been built, all these structures have been provided. And you can see Mwenge Seed Secondary School as an example to show the scope of the structures we were talking about. That's how a seed secondary school is supposed to look like, the ones we are building now. There is Bata Seed Secondary School in Dokolo. You can also see that one. All those structures. Nyapi Seed Secondary School in Ajumani. Kagando Seed Secondary School in Mubende. Ntwetwe Seed Secondary School in Jankwanzi district constructed under your gift phase. Phase 1, I think, or maybe phase 2, because it's still ongoing. Lopei Seed Secondary School in Napak district, also under your gift, phase 3. Priority area number 3, secondary education continued. Commitment number 2. Commitment number 9, it says there. Provision of instructional materials, improve the student scholastic materials ratio by providing textbooks to both public and private secondary schools, aiming at reaching a student textbook ratio of 3:1 for the lower secondary curriculum. Over the 3 years, financial year 2021-22 to 23-24, the government has provided 37.77 billion for procurement of textbooks and other instructional materials to implement the lower secondary curriculum. With these funds, 22.8 billion for senior 1 and senior 2, 8.6 million, and 14.2 million for senior 3 and 4. Copies of textbooks have been procured. The supplies were to both public and private secondary schools, and distribution in 7 core subjects and for 13 non-core subjects. Bullet number 3. For financial year 24-25, Uganda shillings 4.44 billion allocated towards procurement of 8.33 million copies of textbooks for the 8 core subjects in S1 and S2 for the revised lower secondary curriculum. Okay, secondary education continued. Commitment number 3, progressively rehabilitate the traditional historical public secondary schools. The ministry has negotiated a funding facility from the Global Partnership for Education, World Bank, for the rehabilitation of 120 traditional secondary schools. This project is expected to commence next year, 2025-2026. We hope. Commitment number 4. Operationalize new government-owned and grant-aided schools by recruiting secondary school teachers and providing science equipment, science kits, reagents, and ICT equipment. In financial year 2022-2023, 111 new and government-owned and grant-aided secondary schools under the first phase of UGIFT were operationalized with the recruitment of 4,744 teachers and 525 support staff. In financial year 24-25, Uganda shillings 56.48 billion has been provided for the recruitment of 2,775 teachers, 666 support staff. Commitment number 4, still continuing on secondary education. In financial year 2021-2022, government allocated 24.0 billion for the operationalization of 117 new seed secondary schools constructed under UGIFT as follows. Science kits, Uganda shillings 5.4 billion. Science reagents, Uganda shillings 0.978 billion. ICT equipment, Uganda shillings 17.6 billion. For financial year 24-25, Uganda shillings 19.3 billion has been allocated for operationalization of 115 Phase 2 and 27 Phase 3 new seed secondary schools as follows. Science kits, Uganda shillings 8.2 billion. Science reagents, 1.5 billion. ICT equipment, 9.6 billion. Still on secondary education, commitment number 5, increase community participation in the affairs of the schools in their respective areas and report problems like teacher absenteeism and cases of sending away children. All primary schools conduct 3 SMC meetings per year, i.e., 1 meeting per term, school management committee meetings, to discuss and agree on school operations, including UPE grants, teacher and learner absenteeism, school achievements, and the challenges affecting school operations. PTA meetings are conducted at least once a year in primary and secondary schools. Bullet 2, the Board of Governors meetings and committees of the Board of Governors are regularly held to discuss school operations and management. Bullet number 4, number 4. Schools also hold or conduct speech days, sports days, class days, science fair, and MDT that provide opportunities for interactions and feedback from stakeholders. Commitment number 6, roll out the integrated inspection ICT biometric system in all public schools, which will enable access to real-time data for quick decision-making. The system will be rolled out in all public primary schools. What has been done? The Teacher Effectiveness and Learner Achievement TELA system has been rolled out to all government-aided primary, secondary, and certificate awarding institutions to handle the problem of absenteeism. 12,006 phones were procured and distributed to all primary, secondary, and certificate awarding institutions to operationalize the system. The ministry has trained 22,500 head teachers, principals, and deputy head teachers, deputy principals of primary schools, secondary schools, and certificate awarding institutions on the TELA system. And since the commencement of the rollout process, the ministry has held several stakeholders' engagements with all district, municipal, city accounting officers, all district, municipal, city education officers, and all central government and local government inspectors of schools. This is the ministry's struggle to fight absenteeism with that program called the Teacher Effectiveness and Learner Achievement, in short, TELA. Commitment number 6, continuing still, the implementation of the TELA system has led to an improvement in teacher attendance as reported by inspectors across various local governments. And 6,365 schools, including 5,152 primary schools, 682 secondary schools, and 44 certificate awarding institutions, are now clocking into TELA system, which shows significant progress in monitoring and accountability. This information is crucial for further enhancing the quality of education by ensuring that teachers are present and engaged in teaching. You can see a head teacher dashboard on the telephone. And inspection call center at this. This is the inspection place at the ministry, which supports implementation of TELA and inspection. Commitment number 6, still continuing. Relatedly, the ministry rolled out the e-inspection system to all local governments across the country, with a harmonized national inspection tool for all primary schools and secondary schools in place. The system was introduced to improve the inspection turnaround time and to streamline inspection processes. Now, 800 tablets for both central and local government inspectors of schools have been procured and distributed, with several rounds of training for all the central and local government inspectors of schools conducted. Commitment number 7, progressively enhancing salaries and improving other living conditions, particularly staff accommodation for teachers as the economy improves. In financial year 2023-24, a budget allocation of Uganda shillings 111.743 billion was availed to facilitate enhancement of the wage bill for science teaching staff in secondary schools and tertiary institutions. However, government has plans to enhance salaries of all its employees as the economy improves. Regarding staff accommodation for teachers, 684 staff houses have been constructed and completed in 114 new seed secondary schools under the first phase of UGIFT project. Still continuing with commitment number 7. As government, it's now a requirement that any new construction of schools must comply with the basic requirements and minimum standards, which includes at least 6 staff houses. This is in our struggle to ensure that teachers are housed at the school campuses. Within the Manifesto implementation period, we expect to construct an additional 1,572 teachers' houses under UGIFT Phase 2 and 3 and the Uganda Secondary Education Expansion Project, USEP. Commitment number 8. To complete the ongoing construction projects of schools. Development of Secondary Education Project Phase 2 has continued to implement construction works in secondary schools through the Government of Uganda counterpart funding. Bullet number 2, Ministry completed civil works in 26 secondary schools between financial year 2021-22 and 2022-23. See Annex 4. In financial year 23-24, partial payments were made to the UPDF Engineering Brigade to commence construction in 22 secondary schools. You can see an administration block at John Eluru Memorial Secondary School in Amuria. And a science lab at Chikatsi Seed Secondary School in Chirhura district. Commitment number 9. Promote e-learning and computer literacy. The Ministry launched the Digital Agenda for Education and Sports on 22nd August 2024 to guide the required interventions. All our new seed secondary schools now include an equipment ICT lab. In financial year 21-22 and 22-23, Uganda shillings 17.6 billion was allocated to supply the computers for the constructed laboratories in newly completed secondary schools. In financial year 24-25, an allocation of 25.91 billion has been made towards the procurement of ICT equipment for Phase 2 and Phase 3 seed schools under UGIFT in a bid to promote e-learning and computer literacy. There are some pictures there that show evidence of promoting e-learning and computer literacy. Now, priority area number 4, TVET education skills development. Commitment number 1. Deal with underutilization of public TVET institutions through relaxing entry requirements and language of instruction so that willing learners, regardless of previous qualifications, are eligible for admission. The ministry has done the following. Bullet number 1. The entry criteria into TVET have been relaxed by removing the requirement for a pass grade in English and mathematics at P7 to join technical schools, and the removal of the requirement to pass English, mathematics, and basic sciences as minimum criteria for joining vocational technical institutes. Number 2, the ministry has continued to implement modularized training and assessments in TVET, enabling interested learners to study at their own pace. Number 3, lastly, entry into TVET started recognizing admission based on prior learning, knowledge and skills a person already has. Commitment number 2 on TVET education. Establish Noya Agro-Processing Technical Institute and upgrade the 6 TVET institutions to centers of excellence. The institutional plan, master plan, infrastructure designs, and associated bills of quantities for the proposed agro-processing center of excellence at Noya were developed. The construction of the institution awaits availability of funds. That is to say, we have not yet done that part of Noya. To a center of excellence. It's not developed yet. Commitment number 2 continued. The government completed the rehabilitation, expansion, and equipping of the following 6 TVET institutions into centers of excellence in the following corresponding fields. 1. Bukaras Agricultural College